conducting of the actual elicitation tasks and activity, what does it entail? So obviously we had the plan that we created initially, so that would be the input for this. And then in terms of the guidelines and what kind of tools and the tasks that we do here, we've got the business analysis approach. Again, that would outline which methodologies and which techniques that could be potentially used. And then obviously the as-is situation, the current state of affairs, the current state of the situation, whether it could be a business scenario or the process, current process or current product that we are already using. It gives you insights into that. And then perhaps also, and then you also have the stakeholder engagement approach as well, isn't it? So you also need to identify what kind of ways that you're going to deploy so that you can try and engage and communicate with the stakeholders. Again, this came from the first knowledge area. And if you've got any supporting material, I think I mentioned that to you in the last couple of slides. So we're talking about the personas. We're talking about what kind of information that we already have about their roles, their responsibilities, their background, their education background. Perhaps having a look at their LinkedIn profile, for example, nowadays is helpful, isn't it? It's handy to just understand before your meeting with the interviewer or before your workshop. Just have a look at their LinkedIn profiles to understand what is their kind of background, what is the current role, what kind of, sometimes they also put in responsibilities and areas that they look for their professional interests and things like that. So you can actually connect to and relate to in a better way. Sometimes when we go to these client meetings, for example, it's like this person's person here, where we don't even know, or we won't have met this person before. We don't know whether, sometimes you don't even know whether that person is a male or a female. I'm not trying to I'm ridicule, but this is the case. I had a situation where I was expecting a person to be her. It turns out it is actually a him. It's a Greek name. It's a Greek name, and I can take the name as well. It's Martha. So like Martha is actually supposed to be a lady's name. It turns out to be a man. But this is like it happened.
That's an interesting Greek.
Yeah. And then you don't even know how they look or whether they're. And then once you complete that, you would then be able to confirm the results. And this is what I was hinting at you, that I had to go through all those notes of tons and tons of pages of the writing of this person, and I had to get the scanned copies and then look at those and take the derive the insights from using the mind map, do an affinity analysis, and you can then come up with some kind of draft results or outcome from the analysis. So when you talk about the elicitation, there are different ways of elicitation. As I said, one is where you're actually having a dialogue with, and that's where interviews are typically helpful, where you're asking them questions and they're telling you. But even in interviews, there's a way to actually conduct an interview. I was trained in that interview conducting as well from the user experience point of view. So you don't go there, tell me what you want. Basically, what you're going to ask is basically something like, for example, what kind of tools have you been using in the last 5 days? How would you go about doing your work in a typical day? So what are the kind of applications? Can you walk me through the steps in terms of what you did yesterday? And then they will go about, I started my day, I came to the office, blah, blah, blah. I opened the mail, looked at it. Then I got a call from this boss, went there, checked it, and then came back. Then there was a call from the supplier. I opened the vendor management application. Oh, vendor management application, what is that? It's a third-party one. Okay, so what do you do with that? So you open an application, I can look at the vendor list, the preferred vendor list. I can add a vendor to that list, blah, blah, blah. So they go talk about, so here you're actually talking about the experience aspect of it as to the performance of the tasks rather than their preferences. So it's always important when you do the elicitation, whatever it be, that you separate the views and the preferences and the likes and the wishes to the tasks, the experiences, the needs, and the problems that they encountered during these experiential aspects. So these are two separate things. While it's okay to people do talk about what they like to do, what they wish, what they want to be, what they want to do. That's all good. But your elicitation should be hinging more on the aspects of what they do, what their needs are, not what they wish to be. but what they're currently doing, what are the kind of problems they're facing, what are the kind of workarounds, what are the breakdown scenarios. These are the things that you would need to focus on. Then you can actually try and ask them a few questions to do with their work. You can ask them to review some case study. You can give them a scenario, as what we call scenario-based questions. You can give them a task and ask them to do a task. For example, you can show them a prototype. This is what we did with one of the financial planning applications, where we were interviewing the top financial directors. Even one of the persons happens to be in a Volvo CFO, the chief financial officer of Volvo Europe. And he turned out an interview, and then we had asked him. In fact, we presented this. We created a flash in those days. I'm talking about a good 12 years ago, or even 14 years ago. We created a flash application of the actual product, which is actually financial planning product, but we created it in Flash, and we made it sure that it looks and feels like a normal the final product. And then we had created the menus, and it looks and feels exactly like how you do with the final product. And we showcase this, and then we ask them to do some tasks. How would you go about creating a plan? Where do you think you will find the report here? Who is the stakeholder involved here? And how can you select a quarter 2 in this financial plan? Can you show us how you can select it? Can you show us what are the different report templates that you can generate from this particular tool? So you're giving them the tasks, and you're asking them to perform these tasks using your product. So it gives you much more insight. Sometimes they're zapped, they keep spending, oh, I don't know, shit, I can't even see. So you can actually see their frustrations, their pains, and their anger, and their inability to look at something which is so easy. All of those are so visible when you do these kind of user tests, for example. So you would, that's why we would actually video record them. So it's not just their movement of the cursor on the screen. So we can actually see if they're trying to, what are you searching for? I'm trying to, hey, hold on. Where is the report here? I don't find a report here anywhere on the screen. Where is the report? Where is the report? Where's the report? Where's the report? Shit, I can't find a report here. There's no report. But I think what you would have done is, in this one, perhaps there is something called here. There is a menu called report, a small button called report here somewhere, which they missed. So basically they are not able to find it. So all the frustrations, all the typical end user interaction with your product, where they're not able to find something which is so obvious. So they'll go through all those emotions, and you can capture them. We'll video record, and we'll do this movement of the mouse on that. So there's a tool called More. So we can use that tool to capture all of that. So it will actually capture the movement of the cursor, and if they click on something like this, it actually also captures that. So you know that they're spending like 2 minutes to look for a button, and they couldn't find it, and then they just click somewhere else. So you can see that, and you can try and, if you can try and ask then and there if you can find it, or if you have got time. Otherwise you can just note down that point, and then you can follow it up later with another question, call, or a mail.